Yo, what up? What up? It's the C3 Fantasy Football Podcast, episode 5. It's just me, the professor, and Mel Mayock here, recapping some of the latest fantasy news and going over the biggest, baddest fantasy football challenge for Panther fans out there. 48 teams have begun their journey to try to win it all. I see a Vernon Butler jersey, and $300 is the grand prize. There's weekly prize winners. It's 4 leagues of 12 teams. We love to hear some feedback from those who are in it, as well as those who want to get in it. Next year, we're going to try to rock 2 of these. Sergeant Peppers is excited.
He's ready to roll, man.
To get into this fantasy football podcast. Mel Mayock, glad to have you here.
Right on, Professor, man. You know, this internet thing's pretty cool, huh? I'm sitting out here in Vegas. You're out there in Greenville, and we're just hanging out like it's nothing. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I hang out with you more than I hang out with my friends that live in the same town as me.
There you go.
All right, let's jump in. Fantasy football week 3, right? You know, what you saw last week in week 2, you saw the flip. Like you mentioned that teams that scored a lot took a step back, right?
Yep.
And then other teams took a bounce back. But I think by week 3, what we're starting to see is some of the more consistent teams coming about, right? I'm going to look at – let's just start off the talk with the C3 Mentor League, which is – this is Ken Dye. Ken Dye is the commissioner. He's the overall commissioner of all the leagues. But this is his focal league where he has a team. You play to win the game, who, by the way, was undefeated, and he was flying high. You know, he's had some bravado when he talks about his fantasy football team. He got beat. He got beat by the newcomer Sandy Raitt, and it's a dual-owned team right there. But Panthers Storm is undefeated, 3-0. They put up 151 points, beating You Play to Win the Game. Just a quick box score out of this, Mel. It was 151 to 139. Matt Ryan, Jordy Nelson, Doug Baldwin, and LeGarrette Blount. Look at these names right here. If I would have told you this was the team that you were going to field to try to win this, Matt Ryan, D'Angelo Williams, Jordy Nelson, Doug Baldwin, Greg Olson, Mark Ingram, LeGarrette Blount, the Texans defense, and Santos from Kansas City. And then I went and told you that D'Angelo Williams and Greg Olson wouldn't do hardly anything.
Right.
And you would put up 151. Would you be surprised?
Oh, yeah, but, you know, that LeGarrette Blount, he's done that a few times. I mean, he's a boom or bust guy, but when New England makes the game plan feeding him the rock, it's a long night for the opponents, and he's a good horse to get on. But you're going to risk it because the next week their game plan is going to be dink and dunk the entire time, and he might get 5 carries.
Yeah, and here's the other one is surprise for me. Surprise, Mark Ingram. New Orleans running back puts up 23 points, had probably his best performance. I'm certain it's his best performance of the season. And in a game where the Falcons were blowing out New Orleans the whole time, I was really surprised that he was able to get these points in that game because you would think that the points would come through the air. But just to mention, Brandon Cooks couldn't get me but 3 points in fantasy football. I needed 6 to win.
Oof. Oh.
Jerk.
That's a heartbreaker.
Thanks, Mark Ingram.
Jerk. I hear you. Now, Drew Brees had a big week, though. He had like 376 yards and I think 3 touchdowns, but padding his stats, man.
All right, I'm just going to go through the scores real quick or call out the winners. Border Milk Biscuits won their first game of the year, 130 over I'm a Classic Cam. Shaq Lives Matters deals Ken Walker his 3rd consecutive loss. In a lower scoring game, 107.5 to 100.5. Gin and Juice just couldn't pull it out. Let's see what happened there. Just quickly, it looked like Dwayne Allen, that tight end position was a stinker.
Mhm.
And really, other than that, Randall Cobb, a stinker. It all went to Jordy Nelson, right?
Whew. Yep.
And he had to play Kobe Fleener. How about this? Poor guy lost by 7 points, and the opposing team had Ryan Fitzpatrick, who had -3 points.
I mean, that was unbelievable.
That's an ugly game.
Oh,
What happened there?
He had 6 interceptions, 5 in the second
6
half.
interceptions. Holy
Five of them in the second half.
God, no wonder they didn't want to pay the dude.
Yeah, we think we were mad this past weekend. Jeez. That's a Jet fans.
Yeah.
-3.
What do you do if you are trying to start Ryan Fitzpatrick in and out? I mean, I think, look, he's got Dak Prescott on the bench. I think
he went off.
Yeah, 22 points. You got to put Dak Prescott in until the Jets get back on track. The Jets are a sinking ship right now.
They are. But, let's see how they do this coming week. Yeah. Let's see how they do this coming week. They play Kansas City this week, right? No, they played Kansas City last week.
That's who they played last week. They didn't do so good against Kansas City. A couple of other scores. Oh, man, Summertime and Living Ezek is scored 153.5 points to put the beat down on Brandon Truesdale. Quick box score here reveals that Carlos Hyde had 29.5 points for Truesdale.
Yes, he did.
He had Kelvin Benjamin with 0 points. Look, he put 99.5 points. Brandon Truesdale put up 99.5 points with having 2 goose eggs on his team, Delaney Walker and Kelvin Benjamin. That's crazy. Aaron Rodgers and Carlos Hyde covered that team. But if you look on the other side, how did he score 153.5 points? I don't get it. Bills defense 25.
Yeah, that's a big one. When your defense blows up for you, it makes a big difference. But then he got 24 out of Ezekiel Elliott, 23 out of Demaryius Thomas, and 23 out of Zach Miller. So you get 23 out of your tight end and 25 from your defense.
And then 17 from your kicker.
Yeah, that's a big night.
All right, so what's going on with Delaney Walker? 0 points. It says Walker practiced once last week, so he's listed as questionable. Says he feels good. Mike Mularkey noted encouragingly expects Walker, who was inactive in week 3. Okay, well, that's why he got the 0. He must have been a late game scratch.
Yep.
That's tough. TJ Yeldon, tough there. All right, moving on in this. Let me see. And if you see any fantasy topics you want to talk about, last winter was we had Team Crawford won their first game of the season. And
nice.
Show me your TDs. Let's break down Team Crawford's win. New player in the league. Gets 13 points out of Cam Newton somehow. And a lot of defenses pulling it through this week. Look at this. The Patriots and the Eagles. Patriots scored 22, and the Eagles scored 17. That's, if you get, like you said, if you can get that defensive production, that just helps so much.
It covers up a lot of other sins on your team.
This game was won for Team Crawford. By the way, we got to get you to work on that name. By Christine Michael.
Yes, 30 points from your running back.
100 yards, 2 touchdowns.
And 106 receiving yards.
Oh, was that 106 receiving yards?
Oh, okay. No. I'm sorry. That was rushing, but then Well,
how many did he get in the receiving game?
I was going to say he got 5 yards.
That's it. That's crazy. He scored 30 points. He must have broke some long ones to get some runs.
Something. 20 rushes for 106 yards, 2 touchdowns. How do you get 30 points from that?
I don't know. I mean, I think he had to bust probably like some 40-yarders or 50-yarders where you get like 6-point bonus or 4-point bonus.
You do get bonuses if you have a long touchdown. He must have had a really long touchdown or something.
Yeah, I think he probably had 2.
250-yard runs.
Yeah, let's jump over to the C3 Muhammad League. And this is JP's league. He pulls out a win, his second consecutive win to go to 2-1. 104-77. Team Keekly wins 120 to 66.5. You want to talk about this 66.5 score right here?
Yeah, that's by our C3 girl game member, Christina Aguilera. she is a heck of a follower, man. A lot of fun on Twitter, but she had some very bad luck. She's got Adrian Peterson and Jonathan Stewart as 2 of her main players, and as you know, they both were out this past week. So she got stuck between a rock and a hard place. But sometimes sucking pays off, because she did win a prize. She did win the contest for this past week.
I haven't sent out yet. I owe everybody Ken a whole package of T-shirts.
Well, I'm
getting to it, folks.
Yeah, but she won a flask to. It might even be full of something. Who knows? But that way it'll wash her blues
away.
You're
not allowed to mail liquids. I would though. Looking at this team, Christina, you got to get on a dang wide receiver.
Yeah.
Like pronto. Not only, I mean, I think Frank Gore, you can hang with that. In this league, you can get away with, you're going to have to pick up another running back. You got to get somebody. I know that, like, so Christina, this is what you got to do. You got to get out there. You're going to have to. Do you drop Adrian Peterson?
Yeah.
You got to get rid of one of those defenses. She's got 3 defenses. Not good. So here's what's the C3 fantasy advice here? Drop 2 of those defenses right away, and go get a wide receiver off the waiver wire, and also get a running back. If we look at the wide receiver, let me see if we can pull up.
Lots of list of free agents there.
Here's free agency. Darren Sproles, by the way. No, you want, because they're going to try to get what's his name, that you Kenyon Barner in. How about this? What about the dude that CJ Spiller, who's going to be signing with the Seahawks?
Yeah, well, you still got Christine Michael there, right?
Yeah, but change of pace, right? I mean, CJ Spiller. I mean,
let's see if in that league, if that Chicago running back's available. Howard, that would be the.
What happened to Shane Vereen out for the season? That stinks.
Is he? Ooh, ouch.
I think here there's not. I think what you could do is go Alfred Morris, Kenyon Barner, or TJ Yeldon. I know that those seem like out of the crazy outsider, but what you could do is think about this: is that Alfred Morris has actually been used relatively significantly. I mean, he's played, he's toted the rock. So
yeah.
The other thing is that if Ezekiel Elliott were to suffer an injury, you got a guy that's going to go straight to a starting position.
Yep. Believe me, right. I've got Ezekiel Elliott and I've got Alfred Morris as my handcuff running back. He's staying on my bench.
What do you think you do here at running back, Mel? If you're looking at the free agent list?
Yeah, there's nothing there that's going to change your season. There's no,
really but you got to get through until something happens.
Yeah,
what about Jay Ajayi? What's up with him?
Well, he's a good player because oh gosh, what's his name is hurt. The guy that has those hamstrings. Foster is hurt.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But he had
7 carries for 28 yards and a touchdown against Cleveland.
Right.
That's 9. Right. He got 9 points there.
Yeah, I mean he's solid pickup. I would say Sproles because he could really pay off, but he's on a bye this week. Green Bay and Philadelphia are on byes this week.
Right. Let me see who else. I kind of like. And let's see, what did Alfred Morris do this week? Just to see. Alfred Morris had 5 carries for 19 yards and a touchdown. Yeah. No, so what you're talking about is I think the Ajaje pickup could be, you might have a guy that's going to get more playing time there, especially if Ezekiel Elliott is kind of surging,
Yeah. But, I mean, you only have to start one running back, and she has, Lamar Miller. She could load up and find, get another wide receiver potentially.
All right, well, let's see what's out there at wide receiver just to talk about that for one more moment.
Lamar Miller's not a bad player.
Michael Thomas, what did he do?
He's a pretty good player now, and that's a high-octane offense.
Yeah, you're going to be from behind. That's a good pickup. Victor Cruz, now that is another option. 3 catches, 70 yards. I don't even know who else. Tajay Sharp is there.
No, not a whole lot on that bench on that waiver wire there.
Yeah, I think you get up there and you get either Victor
you got Tig Ginn Jr.
or is he up there?
Tig Ginn's there. Yeah.
Oh man, he is way down there. He's under Justin. He's ranked under Justin Hardy.
Yeah, he's a flyer, man. He's a boomer bust. He's the kind of guy on DraftKings that you want to put in at a low cost, and if he has a big game, man, it's going to pay off.
Yeah. What about Kenny Stills? Not 5 catches, 76 yards. You got to go and get this. You got to go and get 1 running back and even 2 wideouts almost. I say you go after Michael Thomas there, and then you go and get who did we say at running? Jay Ajaje. That's what I would do, but I also suck at fantasy football. So, all right, going back to the scoreboard real quick. Let's fly through these. 126 to 60, 164. It burns when I pee. Gets burnt again by Mike after dinner. My sister-in-law gets her first win of the season. Team Hairston pulls out a terrible, ugly win of 90 to 75.
Ooh.
So you got a team that scored 164 in this league, and you got a person that scored 66 and a half.
Yeah, you got Cam. You do the Cam scored 130 points, scored 40.5 points more than your sister-in-law there, and still lost. All
right. Yep. Here, let's talk about the closest game in this league, and that is Team Sackinger for a loss, 99 and a half over Shady Brady's deflated balls, 96 and a half.
Our boy Brian Palmies.
3-point difference here. Chris Sackinger pulls it out. Devontae Freeman, 31 and a half points, and DeMarco Murray in the flex. Kelvin Benjamin hurt a lot of teams this week.
Mine included in another league. Yep,
mine included as well. So that was a close. You know what is he did all of that. He won that close game with 0 points from his defense and 0 points from his tight end.
Wow.
Gosh.
Wow. And 10 from his QB.
God, Lord. I know I need to get in this league.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
All right, so next, let's do Rucker.
That's my league.
Right now, and you know what? I'm going to just and I should have done this before. The standings, who is leading the East in Rucker right now is Team Hazelwood. That's my buddy, Corey, who's lives here in town with me.
And that's who I'm playing. That's who I'm playing this week.
Undefeated. Look, there's 3 undefeated teams in this league. Right now, the winner of the leader in the East is Team Hazelwood. The leader in the West is Fear the Beard. And the wild card, if we were to go to the playoffs today, would be at Keep Pounding, also 3-0, right?
Wow.
So that's crazy. You got a 3-0 team that would be going to the wild card in this league right now. An undefeated team. That's pretty cool. Let me see any close games here. Real big blowouts in this league. It feels like here's we got a 133 and a half over Derek the Dominators. That's you, Mel.
Yes, I was playing Sharona this week, and I took it to her, man.
Let me see where did your production come from? Oh gosh, your team really just was consistently awesome across the board.
Yeah,
Except for except for the Panthers defense and Graham Gano.
Yeah.
You had Carlos Hyde, who scored 29.5. You had LaShawn McCoy, who scored 28.5. You had Gary Barnage, who got you 10.5. So that's his first good game of the season. Sterling Shepard gets you 15.5. That's nice to get from your second wideout. And Ezekiel Elliott with 24 points. So you had a lot of guys just put up some really solid numbers. Nobody put up
nobody blew up. Yeah.
I would say Carlos Hyde blew up that game. I mean, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had 21 carries for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns.
That was a solid game, man. Solid all the way around. Yeah.
Those touchdowns, man, they really help.
Bring it on, Hazelwood. I got Hazelwood this week, man. Taking on be the man. You got to beat the man.
That's right. Well, let's see what he did this week. He came in at 100. And if you played him this week, would you have won? What'd you have again?
I don't know. I had 133.5, 133.5.
Wow, it would have been a 3-point game. He scored 130 this week.
Wow.
He started Tyrod Taylor, Matt Forte, Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown has a bad game and gets 21 points. Is that possible?
And it's ridiculous.
How does he get 21?
But
he had 12.
He didn't have a bad game. He had 140 yards.
Yeah, but he didn't have a bad game, but Pittsburgh scored 3 points.
Right.
He had 12 catches. That helps a lot.
Yeah.
Zach Miller, tight end in Chicago. Mike Evans. Mike Evans put up 25 this week.
Whoa. Wow.
I have him on my bench.
10 catches for 132 yards and a touchdown.
All right, so you got to play Hazelwood, and this is what he's got going on. Right now, he's got to do something about his flex position. Shane Vereen was in his flex.
Yeah.
If he was going to have to go starting today, you're talking about, oh, man, he's got a great play in Rashad Jennings.
Yeah, he's going to be a tough team, man. That's a good squad right there.
All right, let me see further scores. We'll look at one more game from this league, and then we'll jump to the last league. If there was another close one, no more close ones in this one. So, big blowouts was you. Here we go. Actually, we do got a close one. The commissioner, Grant Hughes, by the way, C3 writer, 0-3. We're gonna have to ask you to pull it together, Grant.
Oh man.
Loses one. He lost by 8 points, 98.5. Fell to Team New England Panthers, who Charles Vine, a CO, has been in the league since the beginning, right?
And let me just say, Grant has tried to get me to trade Carlos Hyde for Giovanni Bernard like 5 times. I kept telling him no, and then finally today he dropped Giovanni, and I picked him up. So thank you, thank you, Grant.
That's awesome. Way to hold to your guns, even though, he probably got you when Gio put up a big game, too. He was probably hitting you up.
He was trying. He was trying, man. I wasn't going to let go of Carlos Hyde, though.
David Johnson comes alive, 26.5 points. Biggest game, second biggest, it's his biggest game of the year. He had 23 in the first week against New England. 19 carries, 83 yards. 2 touchdowns, right?
Russell Wilson's been a disappointment.
Yeah, it's 13 points. But whenever was he a real fantasy?
I think he was pretty much a stud last year. The guy that won another league I was in had him. He was a stud. Yeah, this year, man, it's like his ankle.
I think of him as the old team. I think of him as that old team where they're just trying to dog you out. 17 to 10.
Oh, he's Cam Jr. That's what he is.
All right, last league is the C3 Mills League to go over. Here are the standings right now in that league. The current leader in the East is The long and K1 short of it, fantastic name, undefeated. The leader in the West is Chattahoochee Hoochie Coochies.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. 2-1 right there. And I'd have to look at the total points. A lot of people fighting for the wild card position there. There are 5 teams at 2-1 in that league. The original C3 fantasy football champion, Not So Lazy Susans, slow start, 1-2. Gano, look at this. Gano, you didn't, and Game of Jones at the bottom. You guys, you girls, gotta bring it up.
You gotta bring it up
yourself.
Bring the A game, girls.
All right. So it's a long season, though. I tell you this.
It's a marathon.
I've started out 5-0 and missed the playoffs. I've started out 1-5, made the playoffs. You know, man, it's just you got to be hot at the ends. Right now, this is what teams are weathering, those big injuries, those storms.
Those suspensions, like Le'Veon Bell, Tom Brady, both getting ready to come back in the next couple of weeks. Yeah,
who does that help in this league? Does anybody, do you know?
Not off the top of my head, but I know if you've got Le'Veon Bell, he's coming back.
All right. Wager Minute, Trip Morgan, C3. This would have been this is the C3 team, 143 points. Taking out Hog Molly Hero, Stuart Beetle down under one, and boy, did he go under 113, 113 and a half. Any close ones you see here? 96 to 85.
Ooh, that's a battle of that was a battle for the flask.
The long and K1 short of it, undefeated 3-0, and squeaks out a win with 96 points this week.
Like we were talking about on the podcast last night, man. Sometimes the breaks bounce your way. That's what it looks like. Sometimes I've had seasons in fantasy where I would have beaten everybody in the league, but I keep losing. One team had a higher score. This guy I would play almost every week, and I've had it the other way where I was scoring crappily but winning. So it's all about the breaks and who you play and when you play them.
Let me see. I was trying to think. All right, coming out of this weekend, stories. I guess latest headlines going on, and have to see how these are related to fantasy. Dez has hairline fracture in his knee.
Ooh, wow.
CJ Spiller does sign with the Seahawks.
Yep.
And Newton pledges that Benjamin won't go catchless again. So interesting. Let's see this. We'll just pick one topic to talk about in the last two. Mel, you want to tell them about the prizes this week while I pick our topic?
Yeah. And if you're in a C3 fantasy league and you're out there listening, I did send an email to everybody just before we went on the air to talk about the prize for this coming week. This coming week, it's the team who has the most interceptions by their starting quarterback. And the tiebreaker, because as you know, the great thing about this league is if you have Cam Newton, 3 other teams have Cam Newton because you got 4 leagues of 12, right? So the tiebreaker is the team with the starters that have the lowest score. So and the winner this week is going to get an Ice Up Sun T-shirt, which is pretty apropos for winning such a lowly prize. But that's the thing I love about this league. Even if your team isn't on fire and you're killing it, hey, you still got a chance to win some pretty cool stuff. If you had Ryan Fitzpatrick last week and 6 interceptions, you'd have that T-shirt.
And with this prize, because we are icing you up, you don't get a choice in the size of the T-shirt. We have one Ice Up T-shirt, and that's what you're getting.
That's what you're getting. If it's
like
too big, too small, you can give it away for Christmas.
You can ice up.
That's true.
Okay, here, let's talk about this. The last topic right here for tonight's show. I just pulled up NFL.com fantasy football page, and here is Stardom Siddums Week 4 running backs. Here are the starts, Mel, and C.J. Anderson versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I'd start them all day long, man.
Yeah, that's going to be a roast. Is that you're talking about the Bucks team is not going to be able to handle that defense. Jameis Winston may have 10 interceptions.
Yeah. Well, hey, that way you win a T-shirt. Go grab Jameis Winston, put him in your starting lineup.
So what else is yeah, you're right. And what else is a start this week would be or a sit would be Tampa's defense, right? Well, maybe, I don't know. You got Simeon. You need to start Denver all day. I guess you're starting Denver's defense all day long anyway.
You know who a good start this week is? Greg Olsen. Look for Greg Olsen to go off. I mean, Kobe Fleener, who has been very pedestrian until this past week, he was splitting the seams against those safeties in the Falcons, had 110 yards. Look for Greg Olsen to go off in that game.
Here are some other starts that they say: Melvin Gordon versus the Saints, Carlos Hyde versus the Cowboys, LeGarrette Blount versus the Bills, and Isaiah Crowell versus the Skins. Mel, I know you got to like Carlos Hyde versus the Cowboys in this game.
Oh, I do, and I got him on my team, so I'm loving that for sure. So I think he's going to put up some big numbers again.
All right, here are some sit-ems on the running backs that they suggest. Frank Gore sit against the Jaguars. I don't know. Do you mess with anybody on the Colts, really?
Well, one thing that I do is I don't look too much against who they're playing. I don't get into these startums and sit-ems too much because if he's your stud, if you've got Carlos Hyde, and let's say he's playing Seattle, you don't just say, "Oh, Seattle's defense is good, let me sit him." You got to go with who you went to the dance with because they're going to burn you more times than not. Just be consistent, and if you got the right players, it's going to come out in the wash.
Yeah. TJ Yeldon, how about this? They say sit him.
He only had 4 this week. I was kind of surprised by that. I would think with Ivory being hurt that he would have put up more.
He didn't even get 30 yards. He didn't even get 30 yards.
And Bortles sucked. Bortles got 10 points. So Jags are being the Jags, man.
The Jags think Rashard Jennings sit him against the Vikings.
I would definitely do that.
Sit Jerick McKinnon versus the Giants, and Jay Ajayi sit him, they say, because of the Bengals. And it says that last week Kenyon Drake got, whether it's Ajayi, Kenyon Drake, or Damian Williams, you should avoid all Dolphins running backs. Like old cold cut. So whatever I said about Jay Ajayi, get out of there. Last week, Drake led.
I go with you over this website, though, man.
Yeah, last week Drake led the team, they say, in backfield snaps with 48, but finished third in fantasy points behind Ajayi with 8. He got a touchdown. You know what? Sometimes you got to get the guys that are going to be vultures.
Yeah, like Tevon Coleman for the Falcons. He only had like 30 yards, I think, and he had 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. All right. So, Mel, that's what we're going to do tonight for the C3 Fantasy Football Podcast. We're going to keep chopping it up throughout the season.
That was fun.
Try to keep these things a little short and condensed, just so for everybody's pleasure. Mel, 2 nights in a row, I've got to hang with you. Last night we hung out on the C3 podcast, and it was pretty fun.
It was, man. And for those of you listening tonight, come hang out with us every Tuesday night, 10 o'clock. Hashtag C3 will mention you every time. So let's have fun.
Did you see the Vibe had asked Tolbert about the coins and the change today?
Oh, did he?
Yeah, it is. Mike Tolbert banks at Wells Fargo, not Bank of America. Ooh, breaking news. I don't know if he can say that to the press according to contractual obligations, but we can.
Right.
All right, this is C3 Fantasy Football Podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. Look, it's the biggest, baddest fantasy football challenge out there for Panther fans. It's where we come together. We also come together on Tuesday nights for the C3 Podcast, and we get excited. We rip it up. Next week will be a lot. We'll be more heartened because we get to get a little bounce back. A little fuel and nutrition from some fail cons, and that's it.
I'm looking forward to it.
Now.
Peace,
or
man.
actually, I got to still talk to you after this, but later on, folks.
All right.